Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for IDW Sonic the Hedgehog issue 44. When we last left our heroes, it was a pretty simple fight issue. It was just sort of Sonic versus the Deadly Six. He tried his best, but on the 6-on-1, not even Sonic could really pull that off until Tails finally arrived with the Zeddy Zappers, at which point there was just a little bit of a struggle, but the two of them were able to knock out all of the Zeddy pretty quickly. But then Tangle and Whisper told the group that Belle had been kidnapped by Starline. And that's where we left off last time. We have this really nice cover here. I like the use of primary colors here. We have, red, green, purple, yellow behind Sonic, who's blue, of course. Zavok, Starline, Belle, and Tails, kind of the main players of this arc. Though Zavok is kind of down already, so I don't think he's going to be a big threat in this issue. Either way, it's simple, it's nice, it's a really good cover. We have our story so far. That's basically Sonic fighting the Deadly Six, Tails arriving, the gang beating Zavok, two of them beating Zavok, not really a gang, and then Tangle telling that Starline kidnapped Belle. Our roll call of Sonic, Tails, Belle, the Chaotix, the Deadly Six, and Starline. I like Starline's little mention of theatrical bad guy. That's kind of him to a T. But we open on the Emeraldville ruins, which is right above Restoration HQ. Sonic is still there with the Zeddy, who are still kind of trying to fight back against the Zeddy Zappers and largely failing. Sonic taunts them, "You're not going to overpower Tails' tech." On that note, and Tails is brought out. He's got this a construction kind of pickup truck. Your ride is here, and he's got the rocket strapped to it. And Zavok tries to lunge at Sonic, but Sonic panics for a sec, but the Zapper sort of stops him, and he sighs. And Zavok looks at them, "So, what is to become of us?" And Sonic just tells him, "We're sending you home." What? And Tails, we see Tails really kind of tired and frustrated by all of this. Either it's just, I can't believe we're still dealing with these guys, or it's, specifically, we should be focused on Belle right now, but we still have to deal with these clowns. "My Zeddy launcher will carry you all back to Lost Hex. Once there, its systems will self-destruct and your Zeddy Zappers will deactivate. You'll be stranded on your homeworld and the rest of us will be safe from you." And Sonic kind of waves them goodbye. "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." Or do. I really don't care. So people who have played Lost World, because I have not, do the Deadly Six, oppress the beings of Lost Hex, or is Lost Hex largely an empty world besides the Deadly Six? So, there's no... My question is Tails throwing the Deadly Six to some other problem, or is this really, a harmless action on Tails' part? That's kind of my question. I'm assuming it is, because it doesn't really seem to be asking us. Tails cares more about his world than Lost Hex. But either way, Zavok kind of looks at him. "After all we've done, you're showing us mercy?" And Sonic just tells him, "We've already won. That's enough. Aside from it being really humbling for you guys." And Zavok laughs at this. And then, I'm not quite sure how we're supposed to read these panels. I think it's Zavok's next line. "I will make you regret showing restraint. This moment of compassion will be repaid tenfold in violence and misery." And Sonic has these flashbacks to the Metal Virus incident and his keeping Mr. Tinker safe. Shadow tells them back during the Sunset City incident, "This is your fault. If I had destroyed Eggman and Windmill Village, none of this would be happening." Espio also, "Just like I shouldn't have let you convince me to leave Eggman and Windmill Village." And then Metal Sonic's return. "Oh, hey Metal, looks like you're fully repaired, huh?" And then Eggman telling Sonic about no longer being Tinker. "That life was relaxing, but I'm doing something better." So yeah, we're seeing Sonic kind of, Sonic has made this choice before, has made the merciful choice before, and it arguably backfired. And we'll see if he's going to stick to his ideals, or if he's going to kind of learn a lesson from the last incident. And Sonic considers it all for a sec before saying, "But I'm not going to sacrifice my principles out of fear. You want to cause more trouble? Fine. Waste your time. I'll kick your butt every time." So yeah, Sonic stays true to himself. And still agrees to let the Deadly Six go. We can debate if that was the right call. I'll say that I think it is. But Zavok looks at him. I can respect that. And so the Deadly Six go into the rocket, defeated. Zavok gives one last look to the gang as the door closes behind him, and it flies off. Sonic sort of like waves them goodbye, and Tails reports the Zeti launcher is en route to Lost Hex, Jewel. Anywhere from the Chaotix? And Jewel tells him they missed their last check-in. I don't know if it means they're busy or if something terrible has happened, but Sonic comforts her. They may not seem all that professional, but they get results. Don't worry, Jewel. If anyone can find Belle, it's them. Okay, so the Chaotix has sort of been diverted. Now that the threat from the Zeti is gone, they're sort of focusing on Jewel. Then Sonic kind of stretches his legs. That said, it wouldn't hurt for me to look too. And Tails tells him, be careful out there, Sonic. The Deadly Six crisis may be resolved, but we know Dr. Eggman is up to his old tricks, as we saw, as the note tells us, back during Test Run. And there's no telling what Dr. Starline is planning. And with that, we come to Belle, who is waking up. Saying her, standard greeting. I'm Belle. Nice to meet you? And then she realizes that she's strapped to this operating table. Starline is, tinkering around in her brain. Where am I? What's going on? And Starline tells her, finally, you have the most obtuse startup routine. Then again, your unorthodox design is precisely why I sought you out. And he kind of, taps, oh, no, I see what happened. He's wearing Belle's hat in the earlier panel, and then he places it back on Belle's head once he's done waking her up. I don't understand. I'm nothing special. I just repair stuff and mess things up. Not always in that order. But Starline tells her there's more to you than meets the eye. We both know that. I'm curious, what exactly does he think Belle can do? Because at first I thought he was just kind of interested in a lesser, I guess, known era of Eggman, right? The things he made in Mr. Tinker don't really come up again because they're not evil in the same way that Eggman is. But this bit implies that there's something that even Mr. Tinker put into Belle. Maybe, I don't know. Belle tells him, please don't disassemble me. Perish the thought. You are a unique, incredibly complex piece of art. I wouldn't dare risk damaging you. We may have had a falling out, but I still hold Dr. Eggman's work in high esteem. And Belle just snaps. I wasn't built by Eggman! And then Starline has this line, that's true, to an extent. I suspect you don't know the full story. Okay, so does that imply that there's more to Belle's story that we don't know? Or does Starline think that Belle does not know about Mr. Tinker? Because Belle is clearly setting a distinction between Eggman and Tinker, right? She was built by Tinker, and even if they're technically the same person, the man who was her father is not Eggman. She, in order to stay sane, she has to have that distinction. And I don't know if Starline is implying there's more to it that we don't know, or if he just doesn't know what Belle knows. Anyway, I suspect you don't know the full story. And Belle counters, there's no story to it. But Starline remarks, tut tut, little puppet. Lies will make your nose grow. Dr. Eggman lost his memories after one of his most critical defeats. We have even more flashbacks this chapter. Going back to the Tinker story, he took on the persona of Mr. Tinker, a kindly inventor and repairman. We see him building the friendly Eggman land. So I took him in and went to great lengths to cure him of that state of mind, with some assistance from Metal Sonic. Though again, this isn't really anything that Belle, and I think the details Belle might not quite know. But she's aware that Tinker was Eggman in the end. But what Belle didn't know is that Starline is responsible. You turned him into Eggman? Indeed, the only drawback being the loss in Mr. Tinker's alternate design perspective. Dr. Eggman has a certain style to his creations, sometimes minimalist, sometimes eclectic, but always with a central motif. He would never think of developing a puppet like you, nor will he ever do so again, which is why I need to study your unique. And he doesn't notice Belle's increasing rage at all this, as she finally snaps, you took my father away from me? And just then, an alert pops up on the computer screen We see Starline looks very excited about that. We see these readouts of Belle focusing on her brain, her elbow, and her tail. Her tail, I feel like he wants to use Belle's 11. Because we see, the anger, he's been messing around in her brain. Maybe this is like an attack readout. We know that her tail is what Tails used to make her kick at Starline at the end of CRADB. But yeah, we got this next readout with Belle's brain with like a pie chart. And Starline gazes at it. Yes, such passion, such realistic emotional simulation. Maybe that's part of the differing perspective in Tinker and Eggman. Eggman would never make his robots have emotions like Belle does. Don't you even care? Belle snaps at him. Are you even listening to me? And Starline dashes back to her. We can see the dust kicking up underfoot. Oh, I do, and I am. And he thinks, let loose, Belle. Tell me everything. And Belle just goes on, you insensitive jerk! You ruined everything! Less about me, more about you. Dr. Eggman made you well in Windmill Village, didn't he? And Belle counters, he was Mr. Tinker. And we have a counter to that earlier page of Starline's flashback. Even seeing opposite sides of their respective bodies, we see Belle from her right, our left side, Starline from his left, our right. If it weren't for these 2 pages in the middle, I'd expect these to be a kind of, open them together and they're sort of not quite a 2-page spread, but in that vein. He was Mr. Tinker. He was kind and sweet and funny, and I loved him so much. And we see Belle sort of playing with Tinker and fixing the Badnik themed ride. I was so happy fixing the toys and rides he made for the children. He began to introduce me to the villagers. They were nervous around me, but willing to give me a chance. We see that sort of introduction as the mayor sort of, facilitates that introduction. Then one day, he vanished. So one thing I've kind of been wondering for a while now is where was Belle back during Fate of Dr. Eggman? When we first met Mr. Tinker, I feel like there wasn't that long a gap between the Tinker reveal and Tinker being captured by Starline. But apparently there was enough time for him to build a puppet and then have her introduced to the townspeople. I'm not quite sure where that works in the timeline. Either way, not long after, Eggman attacked. And we come back to the fall of Windmill Village. And we see, Belle, by being a machine, is able to survive. The metal virus didn't affect me, and I was very alone. And we see her just kind of wandering the ruins of Windmill Village. I said before, the Fate of Windmill Village is one of my favorite issues in the entire series. And just seeing Belle sort of working through that devastation it's a lot. Eventually, everyone was cured and came home. But they blamed me. They thought I was an Eggman spy. Though we do see the mayor sort of holds back the kid accusing her. The mayor is aware that there's a distinction between Tinker and Eggman. They broke down and recycled everything Mr. Tinker built and got mad if I tried to fix anything. The one thing I'm kind of wondering is that, it's not exactly there was that big a design distinction between Eggman and Tinker. Sure, Belle would never have been made by Tinker, but the things that Tinker built for Eggman Land were A, literally called Eggman Land, and B, called Badnik, or looked like Badniks. And given that there wasn't that much time between, the fall of Eggman at the end of Forces and Tinker sort of building his own Eggman Land, it's odd the citizens of Windmill Village had never quite put the pieces together. But this, or maybe they did, I think. Right? Didn't they kind of know? I have to go back to those issues. But I think they did kind of know, but were aware that he kind of lost his memory and were going to take pity on him, I think. But now that he sort of has come back to himself, they don't quite know about the memory stuff with Starline. They thought he was just kind of lying or something. And so they tear down everything. There was a fool's choice to trust him, and as such, a fool's choice to trust Belle. Anyway, got mad if I tried to fix anything. So I ran away. I looked for him. I thought, maybe if I found him, I could talk to him, make him come back as Mr. Tinker. Instead, I was found by Sonic and Tails, going back to her time in the Badnik base. I thought, maybe, with their help, I could fix things. Stupendous. And we see Starline has gone back to his readouts. Quantifiable metrics on loyalty, familial devotion, the whole gamut of emotions. A sense of purpose and belonging rendered in beautiful, replicable code. I've worked out where this is going. Because as y'all may or may not know, it was recently announced, I think last month, the next miniseries, that together with the next 5 issues are all going to build up to issue 50. And that miniseries is called Imposter Syndrome. And tied with, stealing Tails' fur at the end of CRABB, and just sort of the little bits we've heard about Imposter Syndrome, it's about Starline making clones of people. And here, we see within Belle the ability to give machines emotions, right? And so that's kind of, maybe they're less clones and more still, distinctly mechanical. I don't quite know how exactly that's all going to play out in Imposter Syndrome. I, of course, have not read Imposter Syndrome yet because it doesn't exist yet. But that feels like where all this is going. Anyway, Starline goes on, and all of it readily applicable. This will save me months of research. I can directly apply it to them, the clones, and begin field testing immediately. And Belle just sort of mopes, why did I even bother? You don't care. Nobody cares. And then, a half-faded out finger presses the button freeing Belle. The Chaotix are here. That's SBO. It is SBO, who tells her, keep quiet. We'll escape while he's distracted. And Belle does not do that, panicking. And on top of it all, there's ghosts, and she accidentally smacks SBO. And Belle, it almost looks like she can see SBO, because she seems to recognize where he is. Wait a minute. You're that detective ninja guy that can turn invisible. Sawdust. And Vector barges in. Oh, for pity's sake. Give it up, Doc. The Chaotix had you surrounded. And Vector and Charmy bust on in with their own rescue mission for Belle. And Starline just gives this slow, dramatic clap. He is so theatrical. Gracious. How did you find me so quickly? And Vector tells him, all part of being a good detective. And Charmy also chimes in, yeah, and now we know where your evil lair is. And Starline taunts, ha ha ha, my dear child, did you think this modest facility is my headquarters? And Charmy kind of shakes his head and kind of admits, well, I did, until you laughed like that just now. But Vector tells him, doesn't matter, we're bringing you in and raiding your files. We'll know what you've been up to soon enough. But Starline kind of goes over this computer, his computer. All the data has been uploaded to my personal cloud server already. There's nothing here for you to inspect. But just to be sure, and he presses the tricore, specifically the power section, and he smashes the computer. Vector calls, get him! He and Charmy go into battle. Belle calls, should I? But SBO also runs in and just tells her, find cover. Starline goes into flight mode and bounces off of Vector's head as Vector tries to dive for him, dodges some of SBO's kunai knives, and then also kind of kicks at Charmy. Gets away from all of them, moves into speed form. Better luck next time, detectives. And Miss Belle, thank you. You've been very helpful. And he runs out with the power of the speed core. Charmy calls, he's too fast. SBO also tries to go, but he can't catch up with a speed core powered Starline. Vector turns to Belle, though. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? And Belle is just leaning over the railing, crying. He broke my heart. And Vector comes over to her, literally? Because Tails can maybe fix that. Bro, she's literally weeping. Read the room, man. But Belle just says, no. And Vector, pats her head. It's a very sweet moment. I really wish it was not in silhouette. Shh, it's gonna be okay now. I'm here. You've got friends waiting for you. And then we come to Lost Hex, where the Zeti ship has arrived. The Deadly Six all get out, the ship falls apart, and the zappers, I guess, come off. Zavok looks over it. They were true to their word. And Zik, I think, is the master. One of a hero's many weaknesses. And Xena kind of grumbles, well, here we are, back home with nothing to show for it. And Ziz is the pink one. Man, I don't even feel like breaking anything. But Zavok turns to them all. Consider, my pack, that we took on a conquest far greater than any Zeddy ever dared undertake. There is honor and glory to be found in that, though our victory was stolen by these rodents by a hair's breadth. But in defeat there is knowledge. These paltry tricks cannot defeat us again. Lost Hex will not contain us forever. We will return to the world below with a vengeance, wiser, stronger, and even more ruthless than before. And they gaze out over Lost Hex as the issue ends. The end of the Deadly Six for now. Next time, Trial by Fire. We see our cover, and I've read the solicit for the next issue. It's the gang, or specifically the girls, Amy, Belle, Jewel, and Tangle, as we see in this cover, going on a camping trip, which will somehow end up tying into Imposter Syndrome and the build-up to 50, which is what next issue starts. But we'll talk about that in like 4 weeks when 45 comes out, which I think is before. I think Imposter Syndrome is sometime in November, so we're going to get the start of the next arc first. But let's talk about this issue. There's a lot of good stuff here. First, we have sort of a kind of... This really does sort of, in a way, feel like the climax of the Metal Virus saga, or the final epilogue of the Metal Virus saga, because we have both, you know, the Deadly Six, who ended up being the final villains of that arc, and also Sonic reflecting on everyone sort of mocking him for letting Eggman live. As he remarks, you know, no matter what happens, I am who I am. I'm not going to just become a killer, even if it's the smart thing to do. And I'm sure people will argue that he should just have killed Eggman then, and he should have killed the Deadly Six now. But that's not who he is at his core. And no matter what happens, he'll save the day every single time, is what he tells Zavok here at the end. Which again ties back into the Metal Virus saga more than it ties into the growing clone saga we're in, I think, now. If I'm right about reading where all of this is going. But without the Zeddy are gone, we have a little bit of them at the end, as they're like, we'll be back eventually, a long time from now, you know, that'll become important again later, just y'all wait. But that's not really, there's no set moment when that will be. Eventually they'll come back, probably, but we'll see if and when that happens. The real drama of the issue, though, is Belle and Starline. And Belle is just a great character. You know, I said back at the end of Test Run that, Test Run narratively was kind of a mess, but it was all worth it for that, climactic confrontation between Belle and Eggman, and then Belle just sort of reacting to accepting that her father is gone forever. Those are two, you know, highlight moments of the entire comic, and they were all in that one issue, and it's great. And Belle is still great here. We finally get to see firsthand what exactly happened to her where she came from, how she was born. She learns the truth of what happened to Tinker, that it was all Starline's fault. And then she tells her own story. That, you know, she was built by Tinker, she was accepted by the village, and then the Metal Virus happened, and all of that changed for the worst. She was driven out, and she just feels like everything is kind of her fault, in a way. Especially this bit about nobody cares. Even though, you know, the gang has sort of expressed their appreciation for Belle, she still can't quite accept that. She's not at a point in her life with everything that's happened to her that she can really accept that. And I hope she gets better, because she's great. I don't quite know what the context of next issue's camping trip is going to be, but it could just be some, make Belle feel a part of the group. If Vector sort of lets Jewel and Amy in on what happened to Belle here, I could see that being the impetus for this camping trip. But with that, we get some more clues on what Starline's up to. He escapes, of course, because he has to go be the big bad for the next 10 issues. And then, he has the info he needs to make clones, both with the DNA samples he's been collecting from people, and the data on emotions that he's picked up from Belle. And he'll definitely be a big threat going forward. But for now, a little bit of peace, some camping, and I'm sure nothing bad is right about to happen. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!